Gilgeous-Alexander. McCollum staying with him. Spins, gets inside. Left-handed off the glass. Oh, what a sweet move.
Giddey, tough spot. Backdoor. What a pass. What a play. And J-Dub picks the pocket of Trae Young. He'll take it himself.
This is Lou Dort. You're listening to the Uncontested.
What is up, Thunder fans? And welcome to the Uncontested Postgame Podcast Edition. I am your host for tonight, Tayler Peterson. You can find me on social media at Tayler_P15. But way more importantly than that, I am here to break down an incredibly fun game. It's going to be a little bit of a shorter postgame podcast because we have our full group podcast coming tomorrow night. But we had to do an emergency pod after this one. The Thunder win their fifth straight game, beating the best team in the East, the Boston Celtics at home, 127-123. Before we get any further, we are a proud part of the Blue Wire Podcast Network, and if you don't already, be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcast at, and leave us a 5-star rating. Be greatly appreciated. We're having a ton of fun with this, and we hope you all are as well. So be sure to leave us a 5-star rating, and you can find us on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, you name it. But we're really pumping our YouTube content right now, having a lot of fun with it, and seeing so much engagement. We really appreciate all of you who have subscribed and been here in the live chat, just like tonight. So be sure to subscribe to YouTube if you haven't already, or if you already do, be sure to tune in when we go live because we have a ton of fun interacting with you all live. Like I mentioned, this is going to be a shorter one. Believe it or not, when I say shorter, you guys are probably thinking like, okay, like maybe it'll be a normal post-game podcast, like 30 minutes. No, I'm shooting for about 20 or so minutes here because like I mentioned, tomorrow night, full gang will be together. We'll be breaking this one down. But we couldn't go without dropping a podcast tonight after an extremely fun game. So keep the comments coming. Yeah, Matt Noonan already shouting me out. Shorter Taylor pod. That sentence doesn't make sense. I mean, hey, we can go an hour, 2 hours if you guys want to after this one. We have enough engagement already. We can do it, but we're not going to tonight. So keep those comments and those questions coming. I'm going to get through all of them. Really, really excited to kind of dive into this a little bit and to get your all's thoughts as well. It's a great opportunity tonight for you all to be able to get some of your thoughts and questions in. So keep them coming. But like I said, wow. I mean, not much more can be said about this Thunder team right now, I don't think. I mean, they've now won 5 straight. That includes wins against the best record in the West, being the Timberwolves, the defending champs in the Denver Nuggets, and now a win against the team with the best record in the entire NBA, being the Boston Celtics. They've beaten the Nuggets twice and the Wolves and Celtics once during that same 2-week span. They're now 8-1 dating back to that first win against the Nuggets. That only loss came against the must-win game that the Lakers had, where 39-year-old LeBron just went crazy. And I still thought they played a really solid game. And I think that's extremely telling. Obviously, the national media is really starting to kind of get in on this now. Some of these tweets that I just want to mention here after I rattle off those stats, none other than Justin Termine, aka Justin Termite himself, calling the Thunder the black eye of the NBA here 2 seasons ago. And here he is, full circle, one of the best games of the year. To beat the Nuggets twice, the Timberwolves and Celtics each once over a 2-week span is an incredible stretch for OKC. My, how the turntables. Shout out Michael Scott, The Office. The next one is Kevin O'Connor. He said, obviously, he grew up a Celtics fan. He tries to be less biased. Still a little bit of that fandom in there. But regardless, Kevin will work for The Ringer and league-wide. Said this Oklahoma City Thunder 5 games winning streak includes wins against the best record in the West, like I mentioned earlier, the defending champs and the best record in the NBA. I mentioned those as well. KOC is obviously very impressed by this team as well. And even heading into tonight's game, you saw the NBA.com rankings. You saw, trying to remember, The Athletic had their NBA rankings, weekly rankings, and then Mark Stein, who covers the league nationally as well, doing his own thing on his Substack, did his own. All 3 of those had the Thunder ranked as number 2 in the league in terms of power rankings leading into this big matchup. They also all had the Celtics at number 1, and the Thunder just beat that team. Again, that just kind of puts things into perspective. Big vibes podcast here. We mentioned that here for a lot of these kind of a quote unquote emergency post-game podcast, but just it's hard not to jump on here, just be extremely excited about this Thunder team. And I think all those stats and some of those wins really say a lot. Like The Thunder, obviously, they aren't declaring themselves. I think Presley would probably say they're still declaring themselves. They've declared themselves. That doesn't mean they need to go and make an emergency trade. We'll get into that as well, or, push all the chips in the middle of the table. It just means we have an incredibly fun team for the foreseeable future, and they're already contenders at this point, right? Including this season. That's incredibly fun, incredibly exciting. Let's just go ahead and get into some quick themes. I'll go ahead and break them down fairly quickly. Then we'll get into, like I mentioned, some of the comments and questions that we have here. First one I have is MVP Shai. Enough said. Second one is the Josh Giddey emergence. Maybe emergence is the wrong term there, but man, has he been really good over this last stretch of games. This 8-1 stretch that the Thunder have had. Large reason of that is Giddey, and that was all kind of came to a peak, kind of came to a climax tonight. He had maybe his best game, not only of the season, but the best game I've seen from Josh in a very long time, even with some mistakes. I mean, I thought Josh was incredible. Dagnall coaching to win. That's kind of my biggest overall theme, but I'm going to use that to kind of break down some of the rotations and some of the minutes we saw that I thought were really interesting. And then we'll kind of get into some team stats, like you all mentioned. I will include the free throw discrepancy there because the refs certainly were a little interesting, even if we're slightly biased as Thunder fans. So let's go ahead and break it down. MVP Shai. Let's see if I can go back here. Got it. 36 points for Shai, 6 rebounds, 7 assists, 14 of 22 from the field. Again, another extremely efficient game. A big one here, 3 of 5 from 3. We've seen him shoot more 3-point attempts. I talked about on one of my post games last week. They aren't always timely. Sometimes they're a little forced, and I thought there actually was one of those tonight in the fourth quarter, but he was nailing them as a whole tonight, and I thought that was just incredible. Only 5 of 8 from the free throw line. It's weird that he missed 3 free throws, including a technical free throw. Thunder are so bad at those. It's really, really weird for being the best free throw team in the league, or I haven't checked those stats recently, at least one of the best free throw teams in the league. They go 5 of 8. Or sorry, Shai goes 5 of 8, misses a technical free throw. So weird. Regardless, only got to the line 8 times. We'll get into that. Shai was just absolutely phenomenal. Again, you could tell from the very beginning. He came out extremely aggressive in that first quarter. He wanted this one badly, and it showed. I mean, he just absolutely had an incredible game. Now, I will just quick aside mention Celtics put Tatum on him there in that fourth quarter, and that kind of hindered his scoring. He had 33 points through 3 quarters, so he only ends up with, gosh, that's crazy to think now. I thought he had more than that, but only 3 points in the fourth quarter. All 3 of those came on free throw attempts. I think that's not necessarily a hindrance on this Thunder team or getting the ball to Shai enough, as much as it is his ability to impact the game, trust and find his teammates, and to have teammates who can step up and make the big plays when he's being the main focal point. I think that's actually an incredibly exciting stat there, that he only scored 3 points in the fourth quarter and the Thunder still won, even if they were up by 18 points at one point in the third quarter and the Celtics came back. But that kind of leads me to other guys stepping up. The other one being Joshua Giddey himself, 23 points, 8 rebounds, 6 assists, 8 of 14 from the floor, 4 of 7 from the floor, 3 of 3 from 3. Those 3-point shots were just significant because when you have, especially tonight, you had Porzingis being the player in that starting lineup guarding the center guarding Josh. And it got to a point where they had to adjust. They had to actually guard Giddey on the perimeter. It got to the point after the first half where they needed to put pressure on him or else he was going to beat them. But the biggest thing that continues to stick out for Josh Giddey is just his decisiveness, his aggressive, combined and balanced with the aggressiveness. We saw the aggressiveness early on this season. Didn't turn out very well because he wasn't playing very decisive. He was almost too focused trying to get to the rim. Tonight, or like I said, over this past stretch, that hasn't been the case at all. Just more incredible passes, making the right read, making the right play every single time, and then being able to knock down those open 3-point shots. I think Nick said this in our Slack. I think he was tweeting tonight. I think he might have tweeted it out, but people keep talking, national media keep talking about the Thunder needing to make that next trade to put them into the contender level or get them to the contender level. What if Josh Giddey playing like this is that trade? You keep all your assets and you have that moving forward, right? I'm not saying the Thunder shouldn't make a smaller trade at the deadline or anything like that. I'm not going on another one of the rants. But when Josh is playing at this level, it takes his team to a whole nother level, especially on a game. I mean, Chet and Dub also were fantastic. I'm going to get into them briefly, but like neither of them really stepped up like we've seen over the past couple of games alongside Shai. We certainly didn't get another 36-point game from J-Dub, for example, to match Shai's 36. It was Josh Giddey tonight, and that is significant for this team, especially when he's still doing all the right things in regards to creating for teammates and setting up teammates and stuff as well. So Daigneault coaching to win. The reason I mentioned that is because I look at the starters' minutes plus in comparison to the bench. Chet Holmgren played 32 minutes, Dort 37, Shai 36, J-Dub 31, Giddey 26. The only players off the bench, let's see, Kenrich had 13, Wiggins and Joe had 12. We had 8 for J. Will, 10 for Micic, 17 for Kaysen. All those guys contributed. Like Kaysen defensively, I thought he was really good. Made some big time reads against one of the better teams, or maybe the best team in the NBA. J. Will came in with some very brief minutes, but I thought he did very well. Obviously, Isaiah Joe with 10 points, 2 of 3 from the floor, spacing the floor like he does, continue to play well. Wiggins and Kenrich impact the game on both sides of the ball. It was a much tighter lineup. All of that to say, I think this is a similar lineup to what we could see come playoff time for Mark Daigneault. He obviously wanted to win this game as well, and this wasn't a game that he necessarily was willing to give out. Almost said charity minutes, and that seems really bad. Kind of has a negative connotation, I think, with that term. Maybe developmental minutes is the right term there. We did not see that tonight, and I thought that was significant and just kind of shows the peak of this team, what they can really be heading into the playoffs. Something to keep an eye on. Just kind of getting into some of those guys, like I mentioned, primarily Dub, Chet, and Dort. Dub he kind of struggled offensively. He played a really good game overall defensively, going head-to-head with Jaylen Brown. I thought that was a fascinating matchup. But with 32 seconds left in the game, maybe the play of the game, honestly. The Thunder are up 121 to 119. Shai goes up and sets a pick for Dub. He has Tatum on him, like I mentioned. Thought that was a fantastic wrinkle, by the way, by Mark Daigneault, kind of going back to Daigneault. But Dub gets the switch. Tatum's on him. He drives left. Shout out to our guy, Jacob. He mentions this so much, but when Dub drives left, he is just about unstoppable. And that was yet again the case against Tatum. And he creates separation, knows a pull-up fadeaway, puts the Thunder up 4. That was pretty much ball game, even though Porzingis hit that 2-point shot. That was almost a 3, yada, yada, yada. Incredible play by J-Dub. Fourth quarter Dub is just incredible. And it kind of leads me to a tweet that Tony Jones had. He covers the league for The Athletic. He's primarily a Utah beat writer. But he said it's unfair that the Thunder have 2 players like this in Shai and J-Dub. Because we've talked so much about that already. How Dub's able to they almost mirror each other, although they get to their spots and shots in completely different ways. Kind of getting into this team stats just really quickly. Then we're going to get into some comments and questions. We'll get out of here. Thunder shot 52.7% from the field tonight, which was significant. 48 of 91 compared to the Celtics 45%. The 3-point shooting. The Celtics were red hot in that first half. And honestly, that's the reason they were able to stay in the game. But they ended up 15 of 40, 37.5% from the floor, while the Thunder were 18 of 40. 45% from 3. That is going to win you basketball games against the best teams in the league, like we saw tonight. Absolutely incredible. Now, the big theme here, the reason I wanted to bring up team stats is obviously the free throw discrepancy. The Celtics had 29 free throw attempts. They scored 24 points off those 29 free throw attempts. The Thunder only had 17. They scored 13. So the Celtics missed 5 free throws on way more attempts, 12 more attempts, and the Thunder only they missed 4 free throw attempts on only free throw shots on 17 attempts. There was some questionable refereeing in this game. Like I said, very biased Thunder fan here. All of us in the comments and chats, I know we're biased Thunder fans, but there were some questionable calls there. And when Daigneault lost that challenge, challenging the Cason Wallace foul on Jason Tatum in the first quarter, I believe, or at least the first half, kind of sucked not to have that. Now, I'm not blaming Daigneault at all there. I don't think that was necessarily a foul, but not having that challenge on some of those plays were significant. Some incredibly late calls. that was a huge reason that this Celtics team was able to come back from 18 down. I mean, the Thunder really dominated that third quarter, that second half. And if it wasn't for the refs slowing the game down and giving them some of those calls, I'm not sure we would have seen the comeback like we did that the Celtics had. They would have made a run. And the Thunder's ability to withstand those runs is significant. I mean, even with the refs, I mean, maybe that's even a bigger overall point. The Thunder's resiliency. I keep seeing second youngest team in the league, and I've seen youngest team in the league. Doesn't matter. They're incredibly young. And for them to have that resiliency and be able to respond like they did, like I mentioned, against the best team in the NBA, record-wise, even with the refs doing and making some of those calls, it's just absolutely significant. But obviously, I would have liked to see a little more parity there in terms of free throws and foul calls. Only other one I really want to mention is the rebounds. The Celtics had 47 to the Thunder's 38. They're still getting out rebound, but not by too much. I mean, again, it's kind of the trade-off that Mark and Presley talked about before the season. When you're playing the style of basketball, you're able to withstand getting out rebounded by the other team. It took a little bit, but we're finally here. I think that's worth mentioning as well. 34 assists again for the Thunder. They continue to just rattle those assists off, which is just incredible. And only 10 turnovers to the Celtics 14. Thunder had, surprisingly 16 points off turnovers compared to the Celtics 18. That's enough rattling off stats. Again, those are just kind of some low-hanging fruit that I wanted to cover before we really get into the weeds tomorrow night on our group podcast. But again, just an incredibly fun game. A lot of things to get into. I can't wait to talk about it more with the guys tomorrow night. I think the last thing I really have here is the national media jumping on the Thunder are good as they are narrative this past week. Shocker. It's almost like the people who covered the team night in, night out have been saying this for a month now, 2 months now, right? I went on my rant last week on a postgame podcast to end the postgame podcast. And now here we are. I mentioned the Denver Nuggets after that win, those beat writers talking about it. And now we have the same thing happening even before this game over the past couple of days. So again, that doesn't mean the Thunder shouldn't make a smaller trade, or if the right trade comes across, that's unexpected. They shouldn't push the chips in the middle of the table. But all that being said, the Thunder playing the way they are, why would you disrupt that? Especially when you have Josh Giddey stepping up like he is, all these guys just playing at the level that they are. Not enough can be said. So I think that's all I have for you guys tonight and gals tonight. Going to spend the rest of this time just going through some of these comments. We have so many of them. I apologize. This is going to be bad podcasting as I kind of go through them and try and pick some. I won't be able to get to all of them. But please keep them coming. We'll continue to go through them in future post games and obviously on our group podcast. Raw the Messenger. I thought this was pretty funny. I'm spent and I didn't even play. Yep. I feel that Raw. Actually heading into this, I was thinking a lot about that. I was like, I get very excited about every single Thunder game and have recently, but like for a random game in January, I don't know. I haven't felt this like that excitement, almost nervousness, almost like a playoff game or like a late season game to get playoff seeding in a while. So I feel that. I'd certainly feel that. Then the Celtics rattle off that big comeback there in the fourth quarter. It's a little bit exhausting, but incredibly exciting. Curtis says the Thunder are winning the Super Bowl. Love it. That's fun. Just a lot of fun comments. Yeah, everybody's giving me trouble. Short podcast and Tayler don't coincide. I totally get that. Leader of the Josh Giddey fan club, Tayler P15. That's from Sean. Yeah, I've been very hard on Giddey for sure. So I want to be sure to give him some shine here over the past week and especially tonight because he was fantastic. And we'll talk a lot more about that tomorrow. Going to keep scrolling. This is a fair point. Josh was killing the Celtics in the first quarter, but missed easy shots under the basket. He could have had 30 points in a triple-double in 35 minutes, but only played 27. Yeah, he again, I mean, he struggles some there in the second quarter, but ultimately, I think a lot of that is just adjusting to how the Celtics started to guard him after they weren't guarding him, essentially. They're in that first quarter, in that first half, and he started making reads and plays for his teammates. I thought he still played really well. Let's see. A lot of fun Thunder shout outs. Here's a good question from Andre. What is the most interesting part of the Thunder's game for you? Ball movement, spots finding, team effort on both sides. That was incredibly tough. But I think one thing I'll go back to here, Andre, just on the spot here as we head out. The Thunder being able to play so versatile, which leads them being able to push the ball in transition. That allows defenders like Drew Holiday and Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum not being able to get set up. That leads to a lot of these opportunities. We see Chet getting in transition, obviously Shai being able to get to the rim at that point, and Josh has been better because his team's playing at a faster pace, and that allows him to be able to get defenders off balance and be able to drive to the rim and either score or create for teammates. And so I think pushing the pace, and that starts in so many different ways, right? That means players can just 1 through 5, no matter who's on the court, first unit or second unit or third unit, can rip the ball off the rim and push that ball in transition. Or you have Chet Holmgren blocking shots, or Shai or Dort getting steals, and that leads to those transition opportunities. That would probably be my answer there. We have Tamara. The only if for SGA is a consistent three-point shot. Otherwise, man, Celtics announcers saw what we saw. He is unstoppable. Yeah, that's completely fair. When he's hitting shots, three-point shots like it was tonight, game over. Millsy asked about Doug McDermott again as a bench wing. I mean, that's certainly three-point shooting, but I don't think he brings the versatility and the rebounding this team necessarily needs. Those refs, certainly a lot of ref comments. Brett Donaldson says, 32 games in, we're young and playing this well. With natural growth, look at our starting lineups age. It's frightening. Yeah, could not agree more. Smoot, our guy Smoot, says, W, so big, we need a 2-hour breakdown from Tayler. Let's do it. I'm ready. Our guy Cooper gave us a super comment here. I'm going to break this one down. Giddey has made himself untradeable, in my opinion. I think that's very fair. At the very least, he's made his trade value so high that's unlikely to happen if he continues to play this way. But ultimately, like I mentioned, I think this team has reached a new level largely to the role that Giddey has played for them. He's fitting into his role, but still impacting the game at a super high level. And we're seeing that role, that impact within the role, if that makes sense, kind of increase game after game. So I think that's a very good point. And then last, oh gosh, you guys are blowing this up. That's awesome. I'll try and get to like one more. Yeah, Tamara saying Mark Dishikosh All-Star. He seriously might. The Thunder have the best team in the West. It's not out of the picture come All-Star game. He could be Smoot. Yeah, sees Rumble in the background. Like, thankfully he's not barking. He's being good, but he's just like licking and all that stuff. Shout out my dog Rumble, named after the mascot. And then finally, let's do one more here. Georgie never said we wouldn't break down, but the expectation between a 2-3 seed and a 5 seed are very different. Yeah, absolutely. I agree, especially in a very tough West. It's kind of surprising that this team continues to rise above and continues to stay at that 1-2 seed level. But they've shown us enough right now to think that it's sustainable, pending injuries and anything else crazy. So incredibly exciting. Could not agree more. Thank you all again. I didn't even get to get through half those comments. You all were amazing. So just really quickly, upcoming schedule, including tonight's game, the Thunder play 17 games in 31 days in January, 5 back-to-backs, including tomorrow night against Atlanta Hawks in Atlanta. So they are going to be on a flight almost as we speak, or they're getting close to boarding a flight. They only have 6 home games, obviously the busiest month of the season. But here at the Uncontested, we will have you covered for it all. Like I mentioned, Hawks tomorrow night. We'll have a group podcast breaking down these past 2 games, and tomorrow night's game on that group podcast. Friday at Brooklyn, we'll have a post-game podcast for you all. And then the Wizards in DC Monday, Heat Miami Wednesday, back home for the Blazers the very next night, and the Magic at home on Saturday. Very, very busy next week plus for the Thunder, for the Uncontested, but we cannot be excited to break it down for you all. And thank you all again for tuning in. Until tomorrow night. And as always, Thunder up.